Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. We have Ernesto, Ernie with Big Ern Productions. I was saying before we started recording, come highly spoken of from friends of the podcast. So I want to thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Reed. Yes, my name is Ernie Lara from Yakima, Washington. Here, been in the business for 21 years. I run Big Ern Productions, which is a mobile DJ entertainment company. I specialize in weddings, charities, fundraisers, corporate events, school events, private events, all across the West Coast. So from Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Idaho, and a little bit in Arizona as well. It's kind of one of those things where the business found me. Yeah, I used to do retail for the longest time, and I remember helping out a buddy. And it was one instance where I was filling in, carrying gear for him and stuff after we both worked from our day job. And next thing you know, he got sick one time and he asked me to fill in. I go, do you have confidence for me to fill in for you? He's like, oh, absolutely. People love you. People love you. You're going to do a great job. So I jumped in, helped him out, filled in and everything. I had a great time. I felt like everybody else had a great time. Long story short, buddy calls me up the next day. He goes like, so I just got a call back from the owner of the venue that you just did. How did you feel you did? I was like, personally, I thought I did great. I thought I had a great time. And he goes, okay, so I want you to just take this in consideration, just constructive, but exact words from the owner was never to have you back again. Flat out. It's an interesting story. It gets better. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I can't say that I'm upset, about this because I'd never done it before. I've only seen what people do. So I was just interpreting it. And I told him, I was like, I guess if I would have learned the trade a little bit better, maybe I would have done better in the owner's eyes. And he's like, okay, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear because you're at a crossroads at this point. This could be a side job for you or it could be a career. It just depends. But you've got the personality to do it. It's just the skill. So you could either say, well, it's not for me, walk one direction, or you can learn, you can get educated. And that was my pivot at that point. I wanted to learn. So I just kind of dove in, learned the trade, learned the skill, but at the same time, it was just keeping my personality, keeping who I was to the business. 5 years later, that venue, after I started building my business up through it, he called me up directly. He's like, yeah, I want to have your show in my bar. I was like, hey, hold on 1 second. I put the phone call on hold and I laughed and I just like, okay, I've done what I needed to do for this level. Then it was just a matter of progression. And so 21 years later, I'm here where I'm at now today. So
that's great. I love it because it's so hard because it is, whether it's DJ, video, photo. I mean, there's so many roles that we all do where people do them as hobbies or side hustles or like that weekend warrior or, oh yeah, I got a friend that's getting married. I got a camera. I'll go do. And it's so hard because it's something, we've all been to weddings. We've all seen, I've seen like wedding videos and we've seen DJs and stuff. And it's, trying to replicate that. And also there's just so much that goes into it that people don't think about. Right.
Right. Absolutely correct. Because a lot of people think that it's, I got to get a laptop and I could have all my music, get a controller, a couple speakers and a few lights. And I'm a DJ. And I guess that's one issue with the business, that there's no true accreditation, no true certification to become a DJ. And then what kind of gets lost in translation is that all these entertainers that have different levels of talents, whether it's emceeing, whether if it's the mixing, whether if it's the scratching, there's just so much that goes into a DJ. And so everybody has their own perception of what their version of a DJ is, especially for a wedding. And you ask like brides to be saying, so what's your idea of a DJ? And they tell you, oh, well, at the club, they're fist pumping the air, getting the crowd hyped and everything. I was like, okay, what type of DJ are you looking for your wedding though? What type of DJ? It's two different things. It really is. because their idea of what they think a DJ is versus what they want, if you don't nail that, then yeah, you're going to basically underdeliver completely. And you're going to do a disservice not only to the couple by misrepresenting what they were looking for, but also the trade. Because now you put a sour taste in that person's mouth and they're going to tell everybody, don't get a DJ.
Well, and there's even just, yeah, like you said, even just within the wedding DJs, there's so many different, you have guys and girls that, excel at, being the MC, leading the room, and they couldn't care less about mixing or song, theory or whatever, right? I mean, they're just, that's where they excel. And then you have other people that, really are into the mixing and the beats and all that stuff. And, we even have them up here where, they have someone else totally come out and do the MC, because,
Right.
And so, even just within, what would be considered the niche kind of wedding DJ range, there still is so many different varieties. Where do you feel like you fit into kind of that mix of everything?
I tend to describe myself as an experience, not a DJ. When it comes to the DJing, it's just all tailored to music. Then it's all music driven. It's all music focused. When I explain that I'm more of an experience, then people are like, "Well, I like to know a little bit more what you mean by experience." It's like, well, it's about the experience that your guests are going to have with me when it comes to the emceeing, the announcing. Okay, it's taking it to that level where I'm speaking to your guests, not over them. I'm not insulting them by going and saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing today? Let me hear you." And then you get that, hey, and then the moment the DJ goes, "Oh, you can do better than that. Let's do it another time. How's everybody feeling?" What the DJ did right then and there was insult everybody by saying you didn't do good enough. So being able to actually talk to the guests, don't be that obnoxious person on the microphone and everybody says, "Oh gosh, this guy's talking on the microphone. I'm tired of him already." Rather than, "Wait, he's getting on the mic. I need to hear what he's saying right now because that's important. I love what he's talking." That's the experience. Okay. The experience also in the planning, the coordinating, not just the music itself, but the order of events. Maybe there's some details in there that the clients wanted, just those little extra touches, those little nice, those affirmations of gratitude when it came to who made the cake. Maybe it was a family member that made the cake. Maybe it was a family member that did the flowers, the decorating. They wanted a special shout out for that. How to deliver that. Not just say, "Hey, everybody, look at the flowers. They look beautiful, right? Here, let's clap for this person." Done. No, we can do a little bit better than that. And when you dive into it more, it just shows that you care. And when you convey that to the client, look, what's important to you for your day? And they say, "I would just want my family, my friends to have a great time. I want them to basically be stress-free." So it's looking at things from another perspective, always having a conscious eye and ear of what's going on around you. And without putting that, without making your clients make executive decisions on their wedding day. Oh my gosh. They're hiring professionals to be professional, work together as a team behind the scenes. If there's chaos that's happening and if they don't see it throughout the day, you did your job. Yeah.
In your mind, what makes a good DJ in your mind? And it could be things that you're good at or trying to excel at. What to you makes a good DJ?
For one, being able to rock the dance floor, absolutely. But number two, definitely providing that extra level. Don't only wear the title of DJ and MC. Be that helpful hand. Be that person that that kind of steps out when you see like garbage being thrown away or something like that. What's it going to take for 30 seconds to help them out? Strike up conversation with the other vendors that are there, especially the venue. My gosh, you spend that extra little time to help them knock down tables, while you're still there tearing down gear. That's awesome too. So being personable is the huge part of being a DJ. Playing for the guests. Don't play for yourself. Every DJ's got mad skills. I get it. But the biggest skill is to be in that personality that can flow with everybody. Be flexible. Be water, right? Like Bruce Lee says, be water.
It's so interesting. We're my other podcast. It's more wedding planning focused, and we're doing this series kind of like, hey, I just got engaged. What should I do? And I talked with a bunch of photographers, DJs, and we're going to do videographers and whatever. Damn thing. And what's been interesting to me so far is the conversation with that. About like what do people want the couples to know about them, when booking or what questions. It really has, like, for the photographer one, it really had nothing to do with even the photos. They wanted people to connect with them as people, right? And them as
Right.
kind of that vibe that you're going to have. And it's the same with DJs, right? And it's really establishing that. Do you think that there is enough importance placed on that nowadays with when couples are selecting vendors, and especially DJs, MCs, like, hey, this is someone that's really going to dictate kind of the feeling of my whole night. Do you think that there's enough importance on placed on that, and should there be more?
Usually, when I get an inquiry, I try to bring that up. What's important to them? And it's later on in the conversation that it'll come up to, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is the DJ to you, in your wedding? And they'll say, 7, 8, or 9, or 10. They realize how important it is. And then some people are like, well, we just wanted music for the ceremony, for when that happens, and the background music, so I would, and when they say 4 or 5, then you know that they're not valuing it as much, obviously. And when you ask the next question, well, what's the budget then? Because you already know how much that I'm charging for it. Obviously budget might be the king then. And then they say, yeah. I go, so the venue that they booked, if it's $3,500, $5,000, and then the caterer that they booked and the photographer that they booked, and then when they decide to book a DJ and it's only 3 figures, the budget that they put for that, you're like, okay, you see the sloping part. And then that's when I try to explain to them, you're hiring a DJ, which is going to be the focal point, okay, throughout the reception itself. That's going to be your MC, your master of ceremonies. I mean, you just take that word alone, master of ceremonies, and they're going to be your front runner. They're going to be the one announcing everything. I mean, they're the cue person, okay? And if you put somebody in there that doesn't know what they're doing or don't have one at all, you're going to have that awkwardness throughout the day. And if you paint that picture to them and they get it, there's a chance of like kind of reaffirming what you do as a DJ or MC. But then some other people are like, no, I'm fine with just, a 3-figure DJ. It's okay. We're just looking for that. That's our budget. It's like, okay, you're not going to change their mind. They've already set their ways on that. But there's the other people, when you show how much more that you do as an MC, as an entertainer like that, then they get it. They understand, like, this is what we're looking for. Their personality, the mesh. They're like, okay, we can flow with this person very well. And as much as I like to be for everybody, as much as I want to match everybody, I know I don't. I know I don't at all. But there's other people out there that do. Okay. And that's why I love networking with locals and stuff, to let them know, look, this is the guy you're looking for. This is the gal that you're looking for. And this is where they're at. They're more in your local area, and they'll definitely help you out. So
It's so hard because, and we talk about this a lot, because, to every single vendor, what they do is the most important. I mean, even if you're if you're doing the rentals, if you're doing the calligraphy, if you're doing the flower, I mean, it's that is, all that you're putting your life into. So it is really hard, and I actually just had an inquiry a couple weeks ago, and it's like, same thing, like you said, super high end venue, really expensive, super high end photographer, really expensive, and then, and they said, they're like, well, video really isn't, as important. Like, this is our budget, can we cut things out or whatever? Right. And it is, I think Reed maybe 5 years ago is like, well, maybe you get a little bit, yeah, you really got, okay, well, can we make it work? Can we not? And realizing that, what was important to everybody. It's really trying to meld those things together with how your mind works and then how the couple's mind works. It is interesting sometimes.
yeah, without coming off saying, you know what you're worth, you know what you put into the event, you know what you do for them, but they don't know. And I've learned over the years is like when they say, well, no, we're not interested. I take that no, instead of it being NO, to KNOW, like they don't know enough. You know what I mean? So if they're willing to hear me out, like, look, I think you have a different idea as far as what I do. I just really want you to understand as far as what you're looking for in your wedding day, and then what you are willing to invest in that are at two different levels. Okay, they're not gonna. You're not gonna find something. If you do, you're blessed. I'm saying congratulations. That's great, and run with it. But the idea of what you're asking for on your day, we've got to come to something. Let's break this down as far as what you're looking to get, and we'll get there. So.
So you were saying at the beginning, when you kind of got into all this and you were helping a buddy out, you worked in retail for a while. Is that I guess that experience of working with the public, right? It's the same thing in retail. Like I was in the service industry forever. I worked like at the Arby's drive-through. Really gets you just in that mindset, right, of like dealing with people, right, goods and bads. Do you feel like that past experience, and now obviously outgoing guy, you're working the room, does that correlate and that service and running a business in that way?
Absolutely, in my experience with retail, because I actually invested it in sales trainings. Okay, not only for the equipment and stuff, but it was more so how to interact with clients and come in, and you have that genuine personality. It's just a matter of asking the right questions. And at that point, to the clients, that okay, this guy's not trying to sell me something. He's actually listening to my needs. They're listening to who I am. So they're not going to just force feed me whatever they want, and get a big old sale out of me, type deal. So when you learn what they're saying to you, and you're like, okay, so based off what you told me, I'm going to recommend this because you said you need 1, 2, 3, and this device does have 1, 2, and 3, and you said you want to stay within this budget. Here's the budget for this. It's right in the same. So on that, I say this is going to be the best match for you. And when you put it to them in the same way for wedding services or charities or fundraisers or school events, it's the same thing. They're school dances. What do they want? They want the kids to have a good time. They want lights. If you got games, you can do some games. Great. Let's break it down. Here we're going to do this, 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 and you wanted all that, and here's the price for it. Perfect. If it works out, let me know. It's that simple. It really is. Just listening to what I get it. We have thousands of things that we can offer under the sun. You're like, hey, we can do this. Hey, we can do this too. But don't overwhelm them. Really pull that information from them, because they're going to tell you everything that they want as long as you ask those questions. So yeah, when it comes to from my sales experience, a lot of it had to do with those seminars, those conferences that I go to for sales training and sales experience.
That's interesting. So, because you kind of said you went above and beyond even in your previous life, right? Of really wanting to make sure that you excel, kind of, educate yourself. I mean, I think there's a way to even like I have guys and girls that do video for me, right? And then there's other people that kind of are more running things, right? There's more. Some people are doers and some are followers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just kind of the way it works out. So what was it about that drive, even before, to really educate and make sure that you were the best at what you were doing?
Well, in order to want to be the best, you got to see in your eyes who is the best. Start off locally, then kind of expand further and further out. Who the people that you look up to, who they look up to, then those people who they look up to, the next, and it's a matter of like, okay, it really does take time to. That's the biggest thing that you're going to invest is the time. Second is going to be the income, the dollar amount, what you're going to invest to later on. So going to mobile conferences, Midwest DJs I'm so excited that they're opening back up this year. So that's going to be a great conference in June. Mobile Beat's no longer anymore, but they're going to do the Photo Booth DJ Expo next year in February. So that's good. That's great in Vegas. But before that, yeah, it was putting yourself around those successful people, reaching out to them, see, if there's a time that you can meet, or see them in action, type deal. But that's the thing. If you don't put the effort to it, if you think that you can just self-educate, go out on YouTube and learn that way, I mean, that's only going to take you so far. It really is. you get that hands-on experience. You put yourself out there, travel down there, go do it. Um, there's You're going to get wowed a million different ways, because it's not only going to be in front of the people that you want to be, but also like-minded people. You're putting yourself around the same people that think like you. That's why they're there too. And then your network is just going to get bigger and bigger. So that's the reinvestment that you do, not only into your business as far as gear and stuff like that, but within, though, the talent. That is the biggest thing, because that's what clients are really buying into. You could pitch your equipment all day long to clients and they don't give a rat's ass. All they care about is like, you're going to mesh perfect or better than we expected with our guests.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about that too. I've done we don't have as many like videographer conferences. I know DJs and like photo booth, that's a big thing. We did the wedding MBA a couple different times down in Vegas. And I remember it's the same kind of thing. Like I went in there and you're like, oh, wow, look at all this. And I was like, you're eating it up, right? Cause it's, all this different like education. And then there's some people that go down and it's like totally over their head. Like they don't even know, like it's so overwhelming. And so it is like, you gotta be, I think, in that mindset to want to succeed. Like you said, putting yourself around people that want to. I used to film. Actually, today I just saw on my Facebook thing years ago, Tony Robbins was here and I got to film him. And at the time, that was like a really big deal for me to film.
That's huge.
Like this big conference thing. And I remember like I filmed a lot of like motivational speakers, doing video, a lot of really bad ones, a lot of, good ones and whatever. And it's so interesting because I always say like, just going and doing that stuff isn't enough, right? You really have to have that drive within you. Like you said, to want to be better, to want to educate, just going and sitting in on, Einstein talking or whatever isn't going to make you be any smarter, right? You really got to have that self-drive, right? Do you find, have you always had that? Have you always had kind of that entrepreneurial bug? We talk about it a lot on the podcast. Like, is that something you grew up with or kind of discovered? Where did that come from?
I've always found, since I was little, if my heart is into it, I'm all in for it. That's the thing. And so when it came to sporting events, when it came to schooling, whatever subject, as long as I was in the class that I wanted to be in, I was all in. If I had to do it just because I had to fill in, my credits and stuff like that, and I wasn't into it, you could tell my grade because it just wasn't there. I was not passionate about it. People ask me, why'd you take geology? I was like, because I wanted to know, I wanted to learn. That's why I aced it, because I was so into it, and you put me into anthropology. I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm just here because I got to take it, type deal. Yeah, absolutely. When I'm vested in it, I could tell that emotional connection that's with that subject, whatever it is I do, I am in. I really am in. As a matter of fact, I just got my certification. I just became ordained in the state of Washington to marry couples. And
congrats.
Thank you. I just had an overwhelming response from a lot of clients asking me.
There you go. I like that.
If I could marry them. And I'll admit, it was never on my radar the last few years until this year. It really hit me hard from a lot of people saying, Ernie, we're just having a tough time finding an officiant. Are you ordained? Are you ordained? And I'm like, I think this is the year to do it. I really did. And I pulled the trigger. I did it. And yeah, I'm just happy that I'm able to do that for these couples. I feel like I've got a closer connection because of, we had more time to talk and interact over the last year. Yep. And now all their weddings are coming up this year. It's like, wow, this just means much more to me now.
Well, I think too, and like I said, before, especially if you don't, if there is no planner, or, maybe there's like a day of coordinator or whatever, the DJ really is riding that the whole way through. And I mean, that's what we talked, earlier on. I asked you if enough importance was placed on, that relationship. And it isn't always the case sometimes where people just don't realize like, yeah, man, if I hire Ernie, like we're going to be going through a lot of stuff together. And it would absolutely make sense that the couples that you feel a connection to would want you to be in that, position in their day. I mean, that makes total sense just based on, the connections that you're building with your clients, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we do so many calls on Zoom. Um, we'll go out to dinner. We'll sit down. We'll just have some fun interaction. I asked them those questions, like, how'd you meet? You know, what was the connection like when you first met? And we're laughing, and and that's how it actually came up the other night, where they're like, Ernie, we've kind of talked about this. Well, when we talk to you on the phone, we just love how you sound. You made us feel so much at ease. That Are you ordained? And it was just the same question again. Boom. I was like, okay, I tell you what, just because we've talked so much like this, and you asked me, if I can do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get I'm going to get the certification. I'll get ordained for your wedding. There you go. And they were just like through the roof. They were elated at that point. And that was the defining factor, though. I was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Do it, Ern. Just do it now. Better done than perfect, right?
Yeah. I want to ask you about that, building these connections. You've done, a ton of weddings, on the thing, we have everyone fill out the survey, it's like over 1,000 weddings, like you said, 21 years. Is it those relationships you're forming that keeps things fresh with the weddings? What is it? Because that's a ton, that, and to put it in, we've done 300 something, whatever. And I feel like that's a ton, right? And this is, exponentially more and over decades and through, economic crisis and now whatever the hell we have going on now and everything else. So, right. I mean, what is it about, weddings and, and obviously you do other events too, but what is it about that keeps it fresh after 1,000+ weddings?
Every wedding that I've done is unique in its own way. So that's my excitement about it. I kind of worried at the beginning when I started doing it. I'm like, it's going to feel like mundane. I thought it was going to be like the same thing over and over and over. So I always made a promise to myself to never let it feel like it's going to be, this wedding is going to be identical to this wedding. So that's why when I sit down with clients and I meet with them and I talk with them, I get more of a better sense of who they are and then what they're looking for. So I know there's other DJs that maybe do it different, but I invest like 52 hours, before the wedding into the planning. If there's a planner or coordinator for their wedding, I don't want to step on any toes. Okay, so if the planner says whatever information you need from them, you get a hold of me. So yeah, not every single wedding that I've done has been the way I wanted to. But at the same time, I'm not going to butt heads with another vendor that has the control. I mean, the planners and the coordinators are number one, hands down. Those are the people that are going to be handling and facilitating everything. If there isn't one in place, then I will let them know that I have experience in. I don't want to say that I'm going to plan and I'm going to coordinate your wedding, but I'll give you helpful tips. Just ask me. I'm a resource. I've done over 1,000 weddings, so I've got a little insight. But just let me know what you're looking for, and I can give you ideas as far as what to help you out through your day.
It's hard because and we talk about this a lot because everyone's weddings, it's generally their first wedding, right? Or if maybe they've been married before, but it's always the first kind of in whatever circumstance it is, and it's hard to want to do something yourself, have been told your whole life you can have it be exactly the way you want it to be, right? The second you get engaged, it's everyone is telling you, whatever you want, but then you might not actually know the right way to do everything, right? And you might, and years ago I had started putting on our website like hours on site and the number of weddings when I calculated all that to try to do like what you said, a similar thing where I might know a thing or two having gone through this, and I certainly you don't want to step on any toes, but you know what I'm saying? It's a weird dichotomy with weddings where everyone wants to do it their own way, but yet no one really has any idea what they're doing sometimes.
Right. Yeah. It's being flexible. It's going back to that thing too. Be water, because it really is. I mean, even on the wedding day, I know how important to photographers and videographers are to get the money shot when it comes to sunset. There's that perfect twilight time, and you tell the DJ, "Hey, I need to pull them right now because I need this light that's happening." And the DJ has to say, "No problem. I've got you covered. I'll take care of the guests. I'll interact with the guests so they know that we're the couple went." Because I've heard of stories where The couple went away. They did their sunset photos, and then they came back, and like half the guests were gone because the DJ did not announce to let them know they were going to step off for a little bit to take photos, and then they'll be back in just a bit. There was just that dead mic air, you know. But the music was playing in the background. You know, they had a playlist playing in the background or whatever, but there was just no communication on that. So the bride was upset when she came back, and half her guests were gone. So
we had one years ago. They had it wasn't a big wedding, it was like 65 people, and same thing, like we went to go do family photos. It wasn't even nighttime, it was like in the afternoon, and we came in from doing family photos, and there was like 15 people left, and we're like, oh my god,
no.
like, and we're like, we have like the whole night still, like it literally had been like ceremony, and this was like during like the cocktail, but like no one, like the DJ was setting up or wasn't doing, whatever. No one conveyed anything. And we're like, oh, I felt so bad for them. I'm like, this was, more than probably 5-6 of their guests counted.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, that's not in your mind. You're like, okay, well, we're going to step off. You let the DJ know, hey, we're going to step away. And when you start to assume that they're as professional as you are or have the experience that you do, that's where it gets tough. It really does, and you don't want to be, you're not trying to be rude, but you're telling them like, hey, can you make an announcement to everybody while we step away type deal. Put the ego out, get the ego out. If you're in the business as a vendor, you're all working together for the same cause. So just be mindful and take everything, to heart when it comes to, look, I'm just telling you this because it's just going to make everybody's lives easier. And the ultimate goal, the bride and groom are happy. Their family's happy. That's the biggest thing, is do it for them, not for us.
You said when you came out, and I'm being facetious, but kind of stunk it up the first wedding, right? You came out, you thought you did good.
Yeah.
And then you said, you went and really tried to get better. What were those things that you worked on, or where did you feel like there were things that maybe you thought didn't matter as much, or whatever? What did that growth process look like? Because every day there's a million people jumping in to do all this different stuff. So what did you learn from taking that time?
It was making sure that I actually had the idea of what they were looking for, asking those questions, just from my sales history, going back on that made sense. I was like, okay, I'm going to pull this life experience that I had from retail when it came to selling, being genuine as far as asking the questions that matter, basically asking the questions that the couples didn't really think to ask, but they want to know. And when you dive into it like that, they're like, wow, this person, is wanting to know me, not selling me, not saying like, oh, do you want a photo booth? And they're like, well, we didn't really think about it. Oh, because I have one, type deal. It's like, no. If you ask couples a simpler question, like, so, I'm going to MC, I'm going to DJ. Did you ever think about maybe an alternate entertainment as well? If you have the DJ booth right here by the dance floor, and you have the bar over there, and then you have your you're going to have your frame where everybody's signing as far as their guest book all around the dance floor. Have you ever thought about maybe on this side having a photo booth here to keep that circle, that entertainment circle, all in one area? Kind of keep the rather than having stuff spaced out where you have the photo booth clear across the other side of the venue, and you start separating people. And then now your group looks smaller because now you have a line of people over there trying to use the photo booth. But if you kept everybody close together, now you have a full entertainment floor. So those pictures are going to look amazing, whichever way they come from. If you paint that picture, now you're basically educating the clients as far as how to move the next level, up the level of the experience now for their wedding.
Yeah, there's a hotel over here that they always do that, and they always do. It's like the dance floor and the ballroom, and they always put the photo booth in like a side conference room, like like out the hallway. And I'm like, you're just begging for people to get bored and walk off, or get uninvested, or you're standing in line in this hallway and you're not part of the event. Talking about stuff like that, don't you miss the real, like, not that they haven't been real weddings the last year, but don't you miss kind of like being able to direct a real dance floor again?
Yes, I do. I do. It's just another level feeling, It's just one of those, like, you're having a good time with them. about the party, you're not being the party, if that makes sense. I mean, there's two different levels. You have the DJ that makes the party about them, but then you have the DJ that makes the party about everybody else. And it's not about me, it's everybody out there. So yeah. I miss it completely. I really do.
We were talking before we got on in the questionnaire about pivots and things. Obviously it's a weird time right now. You said you started you had a pivot earlier this year. The movies Under the Stars, right? Do you want to talk
Yes.
about that? And we'll get into specifically what it is, but I also want to talk about just the mindset and wherewithal to say, hey, I'm going to need to begin pivoting and adding new things here. So I guess first off, talk about that and where you realize like, hey, maybe I would need to figure out some new stuff to do.
Sure. Biggest thing that happened, obviously, when everything was shut down from the entertainment aspect. So when all weddings, all corporate events, all private parties, or all charities, all fundraisers, all school events got canceled when it came to DJ entertainment, that shut my business down completely. So when I heard that we had to wait out 2 weeks, okay, I was like, okay, this is a great time to do like business audit, kind of do a website audit, clean that up, find any dead links, things that didn't work within that, update contracts. The other biggest thing though was gear. So making sure systems were running good, lights and cables and stuff. But then I also had an alternate equipment, which was the big inflatable projection screen because I do slideshows as well, and the projector system. And I just had an idea to, you know what, I'm going to take a break from this and I'm going to set this up in the yard, pull up my truck right there in front of the screen and do like a mini private drive-in. And had the sound system. Actually had the FM transmitter, so I put it on the half watt, so it was a half mile. Um, Played it through the sound. It worked all amazing and everything. But I also had the sound coming out from the sound system that I hooked up to the screen, just in case it didn't work within the vehicle. But then I noticed the neighbors across the street were outside in their yard with their kids, and they were watching the movie. And it just kind of like clicked. I'm like, I think I can market this. I think this is something that I could really put out there because all movies were closed. You know, um, there really wasn't a drive-in in sight anywhere, and even if it wasn't open. And I just remember seeing a lot of people kind of complaining, saying, "I wish the movies were open. I wish I could go to the drive-in. I wish somebody would open a drive-in." And that's when it hit. I'm like, this is exactly what everybody's been asking. And that's when I figured out a few ways to market on social media, especially. And when the first review popped up from people that I'd done it for, it was like wildfire. It just blew up. I mean, even that night, I was just getting a lot of inquiries, asking more questions about it. So I was growing. I was going through a lot of growing pains, super super fast because how do I market for the rate? What's going to be the right rate? Where am I going to find resistance on the rate? Where do I have to call it? That this is it. So I then kind of thought about it. What's the better way to up the experience? So when you go to the movies, what do you want? You want popcorn, right? So I actually invested in nostalgic popcorn machine. So I would actually make popcorn while I was there running the equipment. And people ask me, so how do you get past the licensing fee? The other DJs, other entertainers, they're like, how are you getting past that? How are you getting past that? Well, I positioned it as an equipment rental service. So when I say movies under the stars, all I'm offering is just the equipment to rent. So I wanted to make sure that it was something that was grand, something that you couldn't just go into a Best Buy or a Walmart and just buy it off the shelf or order it, and it's going to cost minimal just to get a hold of, because people have tried that. They're like, oh, we can buy that, for hundreds less and every thousands less and stuff. But when they get it, it's just like, oh, well, maybe we should have went the other way, like, because for the rental service, it's one thing. But when you bring a 5,000 lumen projector, when you bring a quality 20-foot screen, when you're busting out two EV50s, so that's 2,000 watts of sound coming out from each side of the movie screen. But then you go to the next level. I actually curate the there's a movie scene that I do right before the movie starts. So if it's a birthday party, I actually put an overlay on the front saying the birthday person's name, whatever their favorite characters are, if it's Scooby Doo, if it's Sonic the Hedgehog, or if it's Elsa from Frozen, whatever movie they're watching, I kind of curate that on the screen too before that. So it's upping that next level for them. The experience, like I said, it's just different from everybody else.
Is it exciting, that whole, having built a business, right? Done the DJ thing forever, right? When you're presented with a new idea like that, where, it's related, but it is kind of a separate thing. Is that exciting to kind of go through that building process again? Is it nauseating because you've done it all the first time and you kind of know how hard it is? I mean, how does that feel about that?
Um, to give you an idea of what I went through last year to do it, between June, no, actually May, I take that back. Between May and all the way through September last year, I did over 150 showings. I had 3 screens going. I had 3 popcorn machines going um, every night. Okay. So mentally, physically, I was beat. I mean, it felt like doing a bar gig, DJing, just at an earlier time. So I would start showing the movie around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, rather than starting DJing at 9 o'clock at night, and then going for a few hours like that. It just basically the time slot just moved. But it was still a matter of I'm still setting up speakers, I'm still setting up cables, soundboard, projector. I mean, it felt like I was doing the gig. And then when I hit play on the movie, I had to go do popcorn. I had to go run popcorn, get that going. So it was really nonstop. And what I went through doing that, I think there was a give and take. There was a win, but there was a loss with it. One, yeah, the loss of business with the DJing, all those gigs were gone, and then the gain was from the movies under the stars, which saved the business. But it put a really big damper on my relationship, my personal relationship that I had with somebody. In fact, I think it really hindered so much because we never really saw each other at that point. We're always working nonstop, and it was exhausting. I'm not gonna lie, it was exhausting, but it was more so what I was doing for people that gave me this is worth it. I mean, when sorry, when a family that booked me, and at the end of the movie, and it's as I'm tearing down, Dad comes up to me and he pats me on the shoulder. He's like, "Ern, I just got to say, thank you very much for doing this. Thank you very much for offering this, because my son came up to me at the end of the movie and said, Dad, this is the best birthday I've ever had, thanks to you." And he goes, "You're the best dad I could ever ask for." And it's those stories like that that really, really hit me and make it worth it. So all that exhaustion, all that the pain, sweat, blood, tears and everything that went into going in at night after night after night after night, that one story just puts you at another level, makes you drive to do it again. I have a big heart, so I'll give up my free time for somebody when they call me up and they explain to me what they do. Hopefully not a whole lot of people will hear this and I don't get blown up too much, but I've given up vacation time to help out on a wedding because either their entertainment wasn't under contract or couldn't do it or got hurt or got injured for whatever reason. I've dumped my vacation time to go do that, to go help out on the weekend. And it's just that different level of commitment to the trade. And I mean, it's stuff like this that I still have this around.
Mm-hmm. Well, right DJ there. Gets creative with outdoor movie business. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's stuff like that that they didn't have to do anything like that. They didn't have to reach out to us and, ask, so what made you do it? And I'm like, well, I mean, for the same reason everybody else wants, we all want to be entertained. We love entertainment. We love movies. And so if I can do it, I'm going to do it. If I can provide that for you. The next level was providing a photo booth because there was a lot of birthday parties that I did and mentioned the same thing. Hey, this is the extra level. You want to do a double movie? you want to show one movie and then have an intermission and then do another movie afterwards. It's just setting up ideas. People got creative more than I did. They're like, "Hey, can I hook up my PS4 or PS5 to it, or or hook up an Xbox to it?" I was like, "That's a fabulous idea. Absolutely, you can." So kids would be playing on a 20-foot screen on their Xbox with that setup, and man, it was just wild to see playing football. I remember Madden, somebody playing Madden on there. I'm like, I feel like I'm watching a game right now. It was great. It was really really nice.
Yeah, it's because it's just so hard, and especially obviously, everything has affected, so many people in so many ways. But, when it's someone, that has spent years and years, building things like that, and to have, things taken away or moved, and we've done, podcasts talking about, next year and what is that going to look like? And is anyone ever going to get made whole, right? There was this whole, for a long time, there was a whole belief, okay, 2021 is going to make up for 2020. And now, at least here in Seattle and stuff, we don't know. And then going forward. And so it's so hard. It just affects people a lot when you have something that you've built, that you've, put your life into for 2 decades, and then to have it, taken out from under you, right? For really nothing that any of us could have possibly done, right? And
Right.
so, it's a ton of work, to make that pivot. And I think that, I don't know, I think, everything that happened, I think really showed who is really invested in certain industries and who isn't, right? And, have spent the last, year now almost, doing not this podcast, but best made weddings, and trying to educate, have conversations about things, right? Educate people and couples and everything else. And then you see people that are just trying to undercut and discount to get by, and so it shows kind of like, well, who is invested, and like and especially like in your community, right? And trying to give outlets for people and things, I mean, it really shows who is invested, and then who is just trying to get things out of the industry, right? Where,
Right.
because it's really easy. People, oh, weddings are great money. I'm going to get in. I'm going to do that. Like that's, I can charge whatever. And, when the crap hits the fan, it really shows, who is there for the long term and who's not. So that's it. I think that's an incredible story.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I kind of going off of that with everything that got stopped in 2020 and then moved over into 2021. Everything basically doubled, obviously. All those weddings that got put off from 2020 that moved into 21, and all the people that want to have their wedding in 2021, now you have double stacked. And then what we're seeing is a huge influx of entertainers, DJs, that have a laptop, that have a controller, that have the speakers, and like, oh, okay, and they get mentioned to by friends saying, oh yeah, you're looking for a DJ. My buddy just started DJing this year. He'll give you a great deal. We're going to see a lot of new people that come into the business, and I think there's going to be a lot of mixed reviews. Some positive, some negative. Whatever I can do for the community to better the trade for everybody. Yeah. So basically, it ups the level experience for everybody to keep a positive note on it, and not have a huge separation where that curve, right? When they talk about the you have your DJs that are starting out, and then you have a huge selection of DJs that are at a mid level experience level, and then you have your DJs that are they know what they're doing, like flat hands down. They don't have to work for another company. They've got everything down pat. But also learning at the same time. So you have like your 3%ers, you have your 94 percenters up here, and then you have your other 3%ers right here. So
no, yeah, it is, and like you said, with an influx coming in, we've had. Just in the last week, we've had a couple different video photo people. One company, they were looking for alternatives, so they were double booked. Had a bunch of dates they were trying to upload, and then we had another company where they've had quite a few weddings booked for this year, and now they're trying to find lead people to cover those, right? And right. I have Matt that's worked for me for 5 years, and when people, we have consults today, right, on Zoom, and people that know that it's like his wedding, we all meet, or if it's my wedding or whatever. And like you said, where people are trying to pass off these weddings, if you have 70 weddings for this year and you're trying to find people for them, that means that the couples that you have booked don't know who their photographer or videographer or DJ or whoever is going to be. And that's a scary thought. And like you said, I do think there's going to be a mix of whatever people trying to come in or pass stuff off and do whatever. And it is going to be interesting to see how that all pans out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I've even had to gone to the extent of actually working with DJs out of the area, because I'll be in the winter months this year from November, December, January down south in Bakersfield, just outside of LA, doing weddings and everything, because weddings aren't as big up here during the winter months. But since it's just cooler, it's not cold, it's just cooler down there. It's like perfect weather to do weddings there. So I was able to work with them and see what they do, and they got a chance to see me what I do, and we like immediately fell in love with each other, because as far as what we emulate when it comes to doing weddings, the personality just made when the clients and guests tell you stuff like, you know what, I was going to get it when I was going to give my speech, I was nervous, I was dreading it, I was scared, but when you introduced me to the microphone, the way you did it, it just automatically put me at ease. It just like, wow, okay, I can do this. So just hearing that and working with them and them inviting me to do that, I told them, hey, people would love you up here. So if we could, let's collaborate. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a lot of inquiries coming in, and they're going to ask, if I have availability or who I recommend, then I'll let you know. So then I tell them, look, I do have a team. They're from Bakersfield area. I know what they do. They emulate what I do. And if you like what I do, you're going to love them, because then I can actually put my name behind them wholeheartedly. And I could send them to their website. They could see their videos. They could see what they do. They've got it down. And I have full confidence at that point. So, and that's where the networking comes into play. It's just basically who you trust. Because I've done that once before, where I put my name behind somebody, and just because they said that they were a DJ, and yeah, they did the club thing for a while, and then I get a call after they come back from the honeymoon. I'm like, Ern, hey, I was like, hey, how you doing? How's your honeymoon? Oh, it was great and stuff. But I just really wanted to call you because the DJ that you recommended wasn't quite what we were looking for. They were DJ, yeah, they were DJ, yes, but they weren't you. So that's what we were expecting, was when you put your name behind somebody, that they were going to do what you do. And I was like, see, and that was me not listening, just saying, and not thinking that or just assuming that the DJ was going to ask them the same questions and make them feel the same way that I would then.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I spent 2 years in Bakersfield working at the NBC station down there. So that's a small world. So yeah. It's an interesting part of the country.
Yes, it is.
As someone that grew up listening to the band Korn for most of my life, and then to see where they came from, it made all the sense in the world to me that Korn would be from Oildale, outside of Bakersfield. That made a lot of sense later on in life. So yeah, I wish you luck.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is amazing. In fact, a funny story that you bring up Korn. When I did a New Year's party, that I did the Korn New Year's drop, as a matter of fact. So when the ball dropped and it turned one exactly, yes, I did a Korn song right.
That's awesome.
Then and there, by request of the party that I did it for. And when you say Old Town, oh my gosh, yes. Funny story there at Bakersfield. There's I believe it was a $9.8 million compound mansion that became a venue for weddings. And I believe it's called the Hawthorne Estates, if I recall correctly.
In Bakersfield.
About 15 minutes outside of Bakersfield, going through oil fields.
Yeah.
When my friends were taking me out there, I was like, you guys are going to kill me out here, aren't you? You're just going to kill me and bury me. Because all there were just oil fields, oil. And then we stopped and turned left and went over a couple hills. I'm like, yeah, I'm dying. Yeah, I'm not going to be here anymore. And then all of a sudden this vineyard, the dried up vineyards showed up, because it's still January and it's kind of cold. Nothing's really growing, but you could tell it's a vineyard. And then out of nowhere, this compound, it looked like a drug lord's house. And this thing was huge, and it had the driveway that went around a fountain, so you could tell people would pull up in a town car and get dropped off, and then kind of go off. And then there's another road that went behind, and another roundabout right in the middle of these two big compounds with this staircase that goes up to the house with all these huge trees. The ridiculous pool with a slide that went down with the letter H that represented a hawthorn.
Yeah.
And then you had the event back area, that was a huge slab patio, but it had four walls that went around it, and then it had the strung lights that went everywhere. This place was just out of control, but but in the middle of nowhere. I mean, but it was set up so beautifully that when you're in it, you totally forgot.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of an oil field. I am right in the middle of an oil field, and you would never even known it.
It's funny. Yeah, it's a small world. Well, I hope you have fun down there.
Yeah,
we'll see. This has been great. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your time. If people want to learn more about you and your DJ and everything else, you service quite a few states here. So where would they check out?
You can go to my website, bigernproductions.com. You can go find me on Facebook and Instagram as well. It's under Big Ern Productions DJs. So yes, Big Ern Productions DJs, and you'll find me there too. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as to get a hold of me.
There you go. Well, I'm glad we can make this connection, and it's I never thought I'd be talking about Bakersfield, California today, so that's good. And thank you so much again. If you're a wedding vendor like Ern, you can go to bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest, and that's a nice, easy questionnaire to get you in the system, and we'll try to get something worked out. We're trying to build these up again. I still post them every week. We've had a quiet couple months, and I've talked with Alan Chitlick that runs the wedding vendor groups, and he goes, it's amazing to me that you don't have 100 vendors lined up at any given time to come on here and get free publicity. And I said, I know, I can't make the rules. So anyway, if you're interested, but Ern, thank you so much again. And I hope you take care.
Thank you so much. Appreciate for having me on.